am I really still supposed to be here? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And is this what it's supposed to look like for a thriving practice? And so I really found myself about 9 years in thinking, you know what, I'm not really afraid if this is where I'm supposed to be still or not. And just realized that I wasn't very happy and that those two things correlate together. And so I started praying about it.
Listeners from across the globe, it's Jerry Corless, my co-host Chas Emerson, back for episode 3 of The Top One. We have a special guest with us today, Byrd. He's from a great place referenced in an incredible way in a Darius Rucker song, Johnson City, Tennessee. Brian, glad to have you on today, buddy.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Obviously, the whole point of The Top One is really just to reveal the mind and the heart and the character of those that are in the top one in terms of performance, but we mean that obviously in a holistic way. And so today we're just going to get in the mind and the heart and the character of Brian, and then how that manifests itself, the way of thinking and feeling manifests itself into business models that are attractive, and how he landed doing what he's doing now as he's transformed through the industry. Anything to add before we dive in?
Man, I'll just say Brian's real excited to have him join us this morning. He really has taken on the model that we've talked about and breaking through, trying to get to that top 1%. And so we thought he'd be a great first interview on the podcast besides just the two of us because of that story and his passion for the business and helping others. So very excited to have Brian with us.
Birdman, you want to tell us a little bit about your history?
Absolutely. This month actually marks my 15th year in business, and I was 10 years with another firm. It was a big firm, a mutual company, and was there for, like I said, 10 years, and found myself after many years thinking, am I really still supposed to be here? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And is this what it's supposed to look like for a thriving practice? And so I really found myself about 9 years in thinking, you know what, I'm not really afraid if this is where I'm supposed to be still or not. And just realized that I wasn't very happy and that those two things correlate together. And so I started praying about it and just really started praying, Lord, is this where you want me to be? And if it is, and I pray that you'll just give me contentment in my heart and let me be satisfied and send me the clients that you want me to work with. And if I am supposed to be somewhere else doing something else, then I pray that you'll show me. And he did that, and it's very thankful for that. I'd like to give him credit for it, and so I did make the transition over in 2020, March of 2020. Jerry, if you remember, you flew up here, and we had dinner at a restaurant with about 2 other tables, I think.
Right when things got shut down.
Yeah, I think it was either the day after or the next week, everything was shut down.
Yeah.
Uh,
And hey, listen, I'll just say this too for our listeners. So obviously Brian is an affiliated advisor of Axiom, our company. And while all of this in some way is a commercial for us, more importantly, we want to communicate why a group of us, a collective of us have adopted this model and why we believe in it. And so what we're trying to pull out today from Brian and just platitudes about Axiom or what we're doing, but just his real, honest, raw, transparent thoughts and what's led him to where he is today. He's one of those guys who will do that for us. Hey, man, so let's maybe just rewind back and just ask you.
Sure.
You were saying you were at some point in there and thinking, do I really still belong here? What was driving that?
yeah, so where I was is I, again, was at a company for a long time, and I really wanted to be a true fiduciary advisor to my clients. I wanted to give comprehensive, best interest advice to my clients, and I felt like I was doing that, but the rub is that the company that I was with, I felt were saying it, but they weren't really doing it. Their actions weren't aligned with it. And what I mean by that is the recognition, the compensation, all those things were not well rounded. It was very much geared towards one type of product, and it was basically insurance. And I have no problem with insurance. I think it's a great thing. It's very needed. And I think that we need to help our clients make sure that they're secure in those areas, but I don't think that should be the primary focus. And that's where my rub was really coming. And I found myself giving good advice to my clients, building good relationships with my clients, but like when we're back office with the company, like the people that were being recognized for their efforts were only the ones selling this product. And even sometimes not doing it within the best interest for the clients. It was really just, hey, they're hitting big production numbers and that was really starting to take a toll on me. And I really just was thinking there's got to be a better way to help my clients and be not just recognized for it because I don't have to have a carrot dangled in front of me all the time. But at the same time, I want to be compensated fairly for it. And people are going to be recognized. I think that the ones that should be recognized are the ones that are doing the right thing for people. And so that's really where it came down to. And again, also came down to compensation. My compensation wasn't near as much as some of these other people that were just pushing a certain product and again, doing it at the detriment to clients sometimes.
So, Brian, you talked about really things revolving, wanting to be a fiduciary, giving good, sound advice that's in the best interest of the client. But you had one focus there, or they pushed that one focus. What are you focused on now? What does that look like?
Yeah, so my focus really first and foremost is fee-based financial planning. And I have completely adapted and adopted to that model to say, this is what I do for clients now. And so I charge a fee for comprehensive planning for my clients. And really what people are paying me for is expertise and advice, not just for the delivery of a plan, but for executing that plan. And another thing too is if I'm gonna call myself a financial planner, then I shouldn't just be giving advice around products that I'm paid on. I should be giving advice around basically all things financial.
Hey, let's flip back to you're talking about recognition, and this is just a little bit of, again, getting into your head and heart and maybe some of the dialogue we have around our four walls as a collective. But what do you think about just recognition in general? I mean, I really mean that for both of you guys. The pluses and the minuses. I'm not against gratitude and Thanksgiving being expressed for hard work and seeing the results of that, but I can also see some other thoughts around that. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think recognition is a good thing, but I think it needs to be done intentionally. I think that regardless, we are in a sales-based environment. Even as a fee-based planner, when people need products, like all those things, we're still selling it. And quite frankly, everybody's selling something. But I think that when we are in an environment like that, that when production is measured on any scale, that there should be some recognition. But I do think it needs to be, again, in our industry, focused around, are you doing the right thing for clients, not just hitting this metric? But at the same time, I can see where it could be a bad thing. I could see where people would do sometimes things that may not be in the best interest of our client to hit a goal, to be able to be recognized for something.
And I think back to my getting in the business at 21 years old and working hard to hit recognition criteria, right? And it wasn't bad in the sense of we're selling products that people don't need or that, no, there wasn't anything from I would say even a best interest standpoint. It was like literally just going out and doing a greater volume of business, seeing more people, to place more products, to make the recognition. So it wasn't that they were inappropriate products or things that people didn't need, but it did distract from the real model of long-term recurring revenue. Right. So I do see if there's a potential detriment, it's really around getting people's focus on, hey, let's do more volume, work harder to place more of a certain product line.
Yeah.
And what's that doing is we obviously can't be pursuing two things exclusively at the same time. And versus building this model of an ongoing client relationship where you're providing accountability, which is what people probably need more than anything else. And you have the recurring revenue in your business is supported through fee-based financial planning and investment advisory fees and insurance renewals. That's where I see the greatest detriment to it, is that it can pull people away from a model, really focusing on a model that's responsible, sustainable, builds income and equity long-term. And it And it really has the revenue model that is going to enable them to keep the commitments and the expectations that the clients have at the beginning of the relationship, where they think, hey, I'm getting my lifelong financial planner here that's going to stick with me. And that revenue model allows the advisor to do that.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I don't know if any of you have heard interviews from some of the biggest quarterbacks after they won a Super Bowl and they got the trophy, and they're like, "Oh, it's not really it's not a fulfilling thing to have a case full of trophies, but it's the journey, it's getting there." And so I think it's part of what are we acknowledging? What are we recognizing with these trophies and trips and things of that nature? And it feels like in our industry, there's a little bit of a shift of more of a well-rounded practice.
Yeah.
Are we actually building a business versus just selling a product? And I think it's a really good and healthy conversation that seems to be happening more and more. Yeah, I'm with y'all, and I think we can all fall victim to that. But I think also been regulations in our industry that have helped push that down a little bit. And, regulations, a whole nother conversation or topic, but I think there's some positives in that vein as well.
I would say adding to it too is I think it sets a standard too. This is obviously a lot of times with recognition, there's different levels of recognition, but I do think that first level is like a standard that I think that people should want to rise to. And sometimes if we're on our own, we don't really know where that standard should be. And so I think that it's good in that fact. And Jerry, to your point earlier, you're right. I don't think that the majority of people out there are malicious and selling things that they shouldn't be. But I think sometimes when it gets to be the only focus of like, I want to hit this to be recognized, then sometimes, a bias can come into play. But I do think from that standpoint, it's got its pros and cons.
Brian,
Yeah. And you're right. Go ahead, Chas.
you need to wrap that up. I was going a different direction.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, thinking about those different models, and you've changed to this hybrid, this fee-based planning model. You love giving advice. Can you just tell us about the impact, not only on your business, but also your family, your personal life? What does that look like before and after? And how do you feel about your business now that you've made this transition?
Yeah. Yeah. First and foremost, I think the huge impact this had is on my confidence level. Because prior, I was at this point where I felt like I was in a spot where I was giving good advice, but it wasn't really in the platform to do it to my best ability. And so to be in a spot now where I'm able to be compensated for my advice and expertise really, I think, shifts from being a salesperson to an expert. And for me, it really elevated my confidence level, which in turn has helped me to be a lot better in front of my clients. It's helped me to be a lot better with my family. Anytime you're more confident, then you are able to achieve more, in my opinion. And I think that that's been the first and foremost. And the other part is that income has increased as well, which helps confidence too. It's been 5 years now, and my income has almost tripled since made the initial move. Yeah. And all of that is just a reflection of being able to do the right things for people in this new model. But the other factor of that would be is that my client base and the net worth and income level of that client base has greatly increased over this last 5 years. And I really think it's by having the platform that clients truly need and that they're desiring to receive out in the marketplace. And sometimes they don't know where it's at or how to find that. And now I'm able to do that, it is a difference compared to what the industry as a standard is doing.
Yeah, that's where I was going with the first question I asked you about when you said, I've been here a while. Do I still belong here? Or whatever however you articulated that was. The difference between waking up on January 1st, where you're in a transaction based model that's primarily based on protection products, and you've got some relative to your personal and business budgets, de minimis renewals, right, from insurance products. And then maybe you had a little bit of investment advisory business. And did you feel that here we go again? And let me find another 80 clients and
Oh, 100%. Yeah, at that time, it was really about quantity at that point in my career. It was really just running and gunning, beating the bushes, and I felt like I was just constantly on the treadmill. And now I'm able to slow down, and the quality of the clients that I'm working with is getting better. And what I mean by that is what I'm able to do for the clients and the people that need what we do is, maybe I should rephrase that. It's just that people's situation is more complex, and I'm able to focus in and become more surgical with the clients and slow down and give them the time that they need. And like you said a minute ago, the accountability that they need, which I agree with you, Jerry. I think that's the most important part of what we do.
And it's really fascinating that if you rewind the clock and you go 5 years ago, okay, here's where I was from a revenue standpoint, where I was doing upfront transactional business. And in a mere 5 year time, by building a model of recurring revenue with financial planning fees and investment advisory, and you still have the protection product sales, right? People still need those products, and it's written into the plan, and it's part of quality advice that your revenue is tripled. That's fascinating, but gives you a lot more stability. Huh?
The really interesting fact is that the insurance sales, that product alone, have gone up quite a bit, and partly is because the training that I've received from the firm around planning has helped me understand where it fits more. And also, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, the clients that I'm working with have a higher net worth, a higher income, and so it's relative, right? And so they're making more and have more to save, protect, all those things, and I'm able to do it scalable with them. And that's the interesting part, is that even that area, which beforehand that was really the only focus, was that line of business, has gone up greatly and still doing the right thing for clients.
I did know. One of the things I've really noticed about you, getting to know you over the last 5 years, is mentorship. That you are an open book, man. You will call anybody, ask a question, and you just always being a student of the business. And what is a driver behind that? And I know, like, you, when you mentioned planning has helped open that door to understanding even implementation of the risk management side. I know one individual in particular has helped you a lot as you work through that process. Tell us about receiving and giving mentorship too.
Yeah. I'm thankful for the amount of people in this firm that are willing to give up some time to help somebody else learn, because like you said, I am not afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody, or to hop on a Zoom or a Teams call. And I will say, COVID, if it was good for anything, it was good for creating this virtual environment to where we can see people face to face. And again, with my journey and the time frame of it coming over in 2020, everybody was saying, "Okay, we can't just all meet face to face now. Then let's beef up our virtual capabilities." And so that helped tremendously, because both of you guys, I met several times like this before we ever met in person. And so it really allowed me to feel like, even though these people, not everybody's in my office, but I can still be right there almost in the same room with somebody. And so the culture here is phenomenal, in the fact that everybody wants to help everybody grow. It's not really a dog eat dog world, which I appreciate. But really, where that comes from is, again, if I'm telling my clients that I want to provide the best value for them, and I'm going to be a liaison in just about every area of planning, then I want to execute on that. I want to fulfill that. And so I realize that I don't have the most knowledge in every area. And why not lean on the other experts in our firm that do have more knowledge and expertise? And when I have a case that I'm just spinning my wheels on, or not sure about something, then pick up the phone and call somebody and talk through it and see if there's anything I'm missing. And quite frankly, most of the time, they're able to give me something that I've not thought of, or maybe able to look at it through a different lens. And so that has been instrumental. And I've got a lot of mentorship from multiple people here, including you too, which I'm very thankful for, which in turn has allowed me to be on some other calls and things like that, where I'm able to present and share on some things that I've gotten really good at. And I've had people reach out to me and be able to mentor them in those areas, which is, I think, is a great honor.
Awesome, dude. Man, like Again, tripling revenue in 5 years, especially when you'd been in the business for 10, right? That's pretty incredible. So whenever I hear about results like that from somebody, I'm always like, what's this person? What are they doing? So can you talk to us about your habits and your routine and what do you, over the last 5 years when you're tripling revenue, what did life look like and what do you do?
Yeah. uh, Great question. One thing I would say is beforehand, I didn't really take care of my physical health very much. And one thing when I moved over that I was extremely blown away by, just to share that Axiom does, is a quarterly achievement call. And I was fully expecting to come get on that phone call and just to hear about everybody's numbers and the people that aren't there and achieving those numbers and what they need to do to get there. And so just to get on those calls and to hear about the things in your life that you need to be executing on in order to achieve what your goals are, was just blew me away, because I'd never been on any type of business call like that where it was truly about how do you achieve your capabilities. And so that blew me away. And part of that was physical health, spiritual health, family health, just all those areas. And so that's become a focus of mine in a more intentional way. And I ended up losing about 50 pounds in 2021. Very thankful for that. Part of that comes out of in that achievement call, Jerry, you talked about doing 50 push-ups a day. And I adhered to that. I was like, I can do that. And so ended up doing that and then getting to the 100. And so started doing that and kept that weight off for the most part. I'm up a little bit. I need to drop back down a little bit. It's winter hibernation time.
The push-ups back.
Yeah, I gotta do the push-ups again. That's right, I was working so well that I stopped, but I've gotta get back on that, but I have been much more intentional with working out, with my spiritual walk, which again, thanks to you guys, y'all help keep me grounded on that. And again, just family life and being but didn't share with you when you asked about me at the beginning, Jerry, I didn't really share about my family. So I've got a beautiful wife of 17 years. I've got a 14-year-old son, a 9-year-old son, and a 20-month-old little girl, our blessing and surprise. And so everybody else, life is busy, right? And there's so many different excuses that we could make to not get things done. And so just being intentional with the daily routine of spending time on all these areas of things that I say are important to me. Hopefully that helps
Absolutely.
get context.
Chaz, you have anything else for Brian before?
I was just chuckling to myself as you're going through that, and I was thinking, man, if like Brian, a guy that's 5 years is a relatively short period of time to do what you've done, having 10 years prior experience, and I was thinking, what advice would Brian Byrd give to someone trying to get off of the rat wheel? And I just think we were joking before we jumped on the podcast in my comments last time with the hamster wheel, but in all seriousness, man, I know it was a hard decision and you really 10 years you were built this model out the way you were doing it and just completely changed. What advice would you give someone that's considering making that transition?
Yeah, I would say, is it scary? Yeah, it is scary to make a transition and to even consider that, especially in my situation being somewhere for 10 years. And people hearing this may have been somewhere longer, maybe shorter, but regardless, when you're locked in somewhere, you feel like, how can I make a move like this? And I had those thoughts and considerations, but what I realized is that ultimately I had not been happy where I was. And just some of the things that were going through my mind are, would I be leaving things on the table? Would I be leaving compensation that I worked so hard on that I just got built up on the table? If I made a transition, would clients follow me? And it's just scary. Is this the right move for my family? And ultimately, the things that helped me feel comfortable with that decision were the fact of fee-based planning was a big driver of that, is being able to be compensated for my time. And then I talked to a lot of people within the firm whenever I moved over and asked a lot of questions. And some people had transitioned just like I had prior. Some people had just been with this firm all along. but all of them were successful and willing to take their time out and answer all my questions. And it helped me feel a lot better about that. But most of all, I prayed about it and to just left it to the Lord and said, ultimately, I pray to you that if I was supposed to do something else, that you would send something else my way. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that, is it scary? Yes. Do you feel like there's probably a better system or structure out there? If you do, I would agree. There is, because I'm living it right now. Just telling anybody else out there that I've done this for 5 years now, and the thing that I would like to share is that the promises that were made to me on the front end have all been delivered on. It's the thankfully our firm is not a let's overpromise and underdeliver. It is very much, hey, let's give you conservative goals and estimates. And quite frankly, I have outperformed all those. Coming into it, again, coming from another firm, I was thinking, okay, so these are actually going to be really hard to hit. But the things that we talked about on the front end, I achieved more in the first year than what those projections were. And each year I have achieved more. And so I would just like to say that I'm living proof that there is a better model, a better structure. In my opinion, I think fee-based planning is the wave of the future. I think that everybody's going to have to do it initially, just with the Department of Labor and FINRA pushing on those things. But I truly feel like it's the best model for the client because we're able to be compensated fairly for our time and not just pushing a product and having the pressure of making a sale.
We need to wrap up, but for our listeners out there, this doesn't necessarily have to mean a complete firm transition. Most of the platforms out there offer some form of fashion to be able to transition to do fee-based planning or fee-based assets under management or the risk management side of things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an immediate, complete transition like Brian made. I do think that is merited a lot of times. What minor changes can you begin to make now to begin to shift off of that commission based, being dependent on making the sale and starting over every January 1?
Yeah, you just got to have a saying, which is you can't eat the seeds, right? You got to plant them in the ground and let them grow up in the trees. And whether it's an insurance product where you can minimize the upfront commissions and have them come in as a trail or all those types of things, building that recurring revenue with financial planning fees and investment advisory and insurance trails and renewals. That's all part of building something that's responsible and sustainable. And Brian, when you were talking, it reminded me of that saying also that we say a lot, short-term easy, long-term hard. That transaction business is short-term easy, you get a little pop, but then long-term, you got to service it. There may be no revenue associated with it going forward, but the clients have expectations of service. And versus that holistic recurring model, it's short-term hard. You had to make the transition and dig in, and man, long-term, it's easy. You know, when you've got the revenue that's coming in monthly and annually to support you and your staff, your personal and business budgets, and so yeah, just encourage all of our listeners, if you're not in that space and you're not happy, you know, the holistic financial planning, protection, implementation, wealth management is not for everybody. You have to want to be in that model and in that arena. Really, I consider a position of honor with the clients, and there's a lot of responsibility, and even you can feel a weight of that responsibility. But for those that it is, it's not enough to wish. You got to stop and think. We would say pray and write and work and make intentional, Brian used the word intentional plans to get into that model and transform your own life and experience and probably your clients in the process. Johnson City, Tennessee, Brian Byrd, you're a great man, buddy. Thanks for getting on with us and for your testimony, your spirit, your heart, man. Best dude. So we're thankful for you, bro.
Thankful for you all.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Happy to. Yeah.
And good night to our folks in Australia listening and probably Western Europe. And we know the time change is brutal, so we're going to go ahead and sign it off. Episode 3 of the Top 1. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.